Mr. Chairman,
Leadership, Mr. Morel.
I move that the commission direct the secretary to cast a single, therefore unanimous vote for the current slate of officers.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Buckler.
Oh, pressure.
Then I guess, we need to take a roll call, right?
We do. Richardson,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
and Gary,
Yes.
Shadle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Buckler,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes.
All right.
Now we move to the appointment section of the agenda this evening. Right now, I think Dottie Pop's with the BDA.
Mm-hmm.
You want to continue on that?
I'm happy with that, yes. That would be fine.
And Mr. Richardson is on the environmental.
Correct. And I'll be appropriate and be happy to continue at that.
You're on the chamber.
Yes.
Okay. We don't have anybody on the recreation.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Anybody like to be on the recreation, go to recreation?
They always have cookies.
Unfortunately, I have a conflict every month, but
So do I.
that meeting.
Nobody else. Well,
Okay. And you're okay continuing with council?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Amy, the chamber meets the second Wednesday of every month
Thank
at
you.
5:15 p.m.
That's close.
And it used to be the fourth Friday. At what time?
5:15.
5:15 p.m. Thank you. Okay.
Do we need to go through roll call on this or no?
Oh, I don't think we usually have.
I don't
it's
think we
just-
have.
No.
Okay.
That's why they're appointments.
Yeah. Hmm?
They're appointments.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
make the appointment.
Yeah.
Just elected.
So I guess we're on to item 3.
Item 3 is discussion regarding a proposed addition to Ellie's Grill, 2033 Coolidge, west side of Coolidge between Harvard and Columbia.
Is the petitioner here this evening?
Hi, good evening.
You want to step up to the microphone, please?
Sure. My name is Mike Devine. I work for Joseph Phillips Architect, and we're representing the client.
Okay.
And essentially what we're...
You better get closer to the microphone.
Sure. What we're interested in doing is just presenting conceptually what we'd like to do before you and get any feedback, comments, criticisms that you may have. So I believe you've got a floor plan that shows an intended entry vestibule to the restaurant. Currently, there is an entry vestibule, but it's all interior. And our client would like to do a major interior renovation with new fixtures. Really, the whole front of the house would be redone. So this would be an opportune time to maximize the layouts of the booths, which this would enable. This new location would allow 3 full booths across the front of the restaurant, allow additional glass up there, more daylight to come in, make the interior just a nicer space in general. So what we're proposing is that we would create this exterior vestibule in the 5-foot width that is an existing concrete walk on the outside of the building currently. So this vestibule would also be 5 feet. Some of what we're dealing with is we have site drainage that basically goes out towards the street from the back of the building. So in exploring different options, we looked at a potential ramp from the back of the building down because the finished floor of the restaurant is about 6 inches below portions of the driveway that are adjacent to it. So we had to kind of find that optimum spot where it would work with the booths, it would work with the grading, and it would still allow us to have that exterior vestibule.
Okay, Planning Commission, what's your desires, questions, comments?
What's the total width of that driveway?
Mr.
It
Tangier?
is about 14.5 feet plus or minus right now. And that's from the walk to the bumpers. So there is some additional space beyond the bumper.
Okay.
There's a line of concrete bumpers along that property line there.
have a question.
Mr. Richardson?
I've been in there quite a while ago and really can't remember the layout that well. Can you indicate for me where the kitchen is currently?
You have a
It's in the
floor
back.
plan?
It's in the back.
It's in the back.
Right here.
Yeah,
Um,
We have a plan here.
got another drawing underneath there.
Right there.
Okay, thank you. That's where I thought it was, right there.
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Martin Smith?
Amy, if you would be so kind, did public safety have any, I know this is just a discussion item. Did public safety have?
No, I didn't check with public safety at this
And,
point in
I'm,
time.
okay, I'm just curious, because they're kind of pinching that off. It's one thing with
Yeah.
the sidewalk, but it's
Oh, I
another thing with
agree.
the structure.
Yep.
Are there gonna be any issues with delivery trucks trying to make that turn?
Well, usually the delivery trucks are coming from the other side.
Okay.
The restaurant there, and they have an entrance right there. That's what
I can't hear you.
There's another restaurant next to
Right.
Ellie's Grill. It's on the south side, and they have a bigger entrance there, and that's where the trucks are coming.
Oh, okay.
Delivering in the back door, actually.
Okay.
the restaurant, yes.
I see, okay. How are pedestrians, you know, I see, as I look at the little vestibule plan, there's a door facing west and a door facing east, which is Coolidge. Barrier-free parking's in the back. And I'm assuming right now, someone in a wheelchair would roll along the sidewalk as it exists now into the door. What do they do now? Or what will they, what's the proposal? Are they gonna be, all the way around, they're gonna have to wheel beyond the vestibule and come in the east side? Is there a ramp there? I see a step in the vestibule.
Yeah, that's correct. They would have to come around to the east door to get in, because that'll be the door that matches the finished floor of the restaurant.
Okay,
So the opposite door, you would actually step down to that level.
okay. Because that's what I'm concerned about, because of someone in a relatively slow-moving wheelchair or whatever. Then you have in all the way down the building, in the traffic lane with, you know, I know it's not a freeway, but you have cars back and forth. I'm a little concerned about that cross-traffic of a wheelchair versus the automobiles. That would be the biggest, the big issue I have. What do you gain by doing this? It looks like, you're gonna lose a booth along the north wall, but you're gonna gain a booth along the east wall, so you really don't gain any seating.
Well, we're gonna cut the bar a little bit shorter, and I'm trying to put like a bench on the wall and accommodate maybe 8 to 10 people in that area. And it's gonna be a better inside look and the better view from the outside also.
So you're gonna have the same amount of seating, but you're also gonna, is there a booth in this corner, which would be the northeast corner?
There is, right now I have 4 booths till the.
Right, I count 8, yeah.
That's gonna go away, so I'm just gonna put 3 booths there, but the tables are wider, a little bit longer, so they need like a 6-foot space.
Okay,
Bigger booths actually.
okay. Well, the biggest issue I have with this is would be the cross-traffic with any wheelchair or elderly, well, it'd probably be a wheelchair, because of an elderly person with a walker or something could probably go up the step on the west walk, but be the wheelchair against the motorized traffic. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
And if I could just address that,
Mhm.
we did look at having that ramp come from the parking in the rear to that door that is currently the step-down door.
Mhm.
And part of the concern is the site drainage that I mentioned.
I understand.
Mr. Muir?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was a little tight, and I think when it comes to like elderly and people like that getting in, if somebody's bringing them there, a lot of times, like I know my mom, when we take her out to dinner, we stop, drop her near the door,
Mhm.
you know,
That's
so.
what we do right now. Actually, we have
Yeah.
the existing
Mhm.
entrance right now, and people are stopping and parking. And
Right, so,
getting out of the car and just driving. I mean, going to the restaurant.
so
I think that's a better option. Would be a better option this way than.
I'm thinking maybe some bollards or something to protect it a little bit too, some sort of,
Maybe at each corner.
yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna pinch it down even more.
Yeah, I know, but,
And then maybe one that's 4 feet out from the vestibule. So, and this is what I'm drawing right here, if I can come up. and
Come on.
sure, yeah, yeah.
So maybe one there, one there. I don't know that we would necessarily need one here at this point, but this might give a little protection for somebody
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah, I
Mhm.
think that would help too.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Other comments?
Mr. Chair,
Then Gary?
I don't know if it would be feasible, but you've got the step indoors. I don't know if it would be feasible to just put the ramp inside and just have a graded floor that comes down and you'd have no step inside.
We looked at that as well,
Mhm.
and part of what that does is it creates such a long enclosure,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got the booth directly on the other side of that, where you have this double window condition for a lot of the seating along that wall,
Okay.
because we would have to maintain the 1 in 12 slope.
Okay, so you can't get anywhere close to the 1 to 12 slope
You
with
can,
the with the
I mean, that is an option,
Yeah, but
it's
I
just, it
understand his
takes up
need for it
a
too.
good portion of that side.
okay.
Mr. Morrell, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I actually have a question for Commissioner Smith, as he is much more of an expert on accessibility than I am. When you have an accessible parking space, does the closest door to an accessible parking space have to be accessible? Mr. Smith and I are both architects, which is why we're bandying this about right now.
You know, Mr. Morrell, we always do that. But I don't know if it says that.
And
Now,
I'm not sure it does
but-
either, which is
but-
why I'm asking the question.
I know, I don't know if it does, but we always try to do that, because most cities will say they want that. What we don't have is an accessible path between you do need an accessible path between the barrier-free space and the entry. Now, what Mr. Murad said is very correct. Most people will drop someone off and then go, but does not satisfy the letter of the law.
Right.
And there's very strict grading requirements. It's an existing situation, but they're, yeah.
Yeah, I look at it and I think that's a similar thing. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I think, our concern generally is more the outside of the building as opposed to the inside of the building. And I'd hate to have you build this and then be a party to an ADA lawsuit for something that you didn't catch. And, it's just in my head because they just had it's the anniversary of signing of the ADA. I think it's today. as a matter of fact.
Is that today?
So
I might have
my concern would be
deleted
to
that
make sure
email.
that what you've done is accessible, because it seems to me like a person in a wheelchair, particularly somebody coming for the first time, could wheel up that sidewalk, presuming that was the accessible entrance, and then find that they not only have to wheel all the way, they have to wheel all the way back down, go around, and come in. I also don't know how the accessible route treats a drive lane. I know that I don't necessarily have to stripe an accessible route in the
No.
parking lot,
No, you don't.
but, well, I mean, that's splitting hairs, so I don't really know. But that would be my concern. And also, just again, as an architect, I'll be waiting with bated breath to see how you're going to tie this into the overhang. That this plan says is over the top of it, so.
Yes, that is a challenge yet to come.
Right. That's all I've got.
Okay. Any other comments?
I guess as a
Okay,
follow-up.
Gary.
As a follow-up, I mean, you do have a sidewalk edge here. Is the plan to do ramps so that someone could come right up to the vestibule, ramp down onto the drive, and then ramp back up, rather than having to get onto the sidewalk way at the back.
If I could come up
Yeah.
Come up.
So basically, you've got your vestibule here,
Yes.
your sidewalk. You'd be putting a ramp here and a ramp here.
No.
No.
Actually,
There's a-
this would be at its existing
Mhm.
elevation, because this is essentially at the finished floor of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all at one grade, and then you would come in here, which is about 6 inches higher, and that's that step down.
Right. So if I'm in a wheelchair, how am I getting to this door?
You're going
Is there a
into the
ramp
driveway.
here?
Gotta go in the driveway.
You're going,
So this,
you're going in. Well, I understand you have to go into the driveway to get around to this side.
He's thinking
But I'm talking
about
about
the
where do
side.
you get to the driveway from the sidewalk? Is there a ramp here and a ramp here?
well, this would be at the same height right here.
Okay. So there's no curb here, in other words.
Correct.
Okay.
Here, there is a bit of a lip right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't gotten that far. I mean, it could be turning down that edge right there or having it just be adjacent to it. I
Mhm.
think it's more than likely a slate ramp down instead.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a curb in the way of someone getting up to that door and realizing I've got to go around.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. My comments
Yeah.
were,
Depending how high it is, you have to go 1 and 12.
Mr. Chairman,
Miss Vanson.
I'm
This
just
vestibule would probably extend a little
looking at this, and we had talked about this.
I think it
with
should be on that
your,
side.
colleague,
Yes.
but this is just occurring to me, what about on the south side of the building to do, because the barrier-free parking spot is there, would there be a way to have another entrance on
The
that
opposite side?
side?
Go through the
Yeah, I
kitchen.
don't know,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that, at that
rather than
existing
having the
seating.
double tunnel with a ramp that's gonna, have glass and glass it all in, this doesn't have windows anyway. And then that way, it's accessible, you don't have to go out into traffic or worry about someone being very inconvenienced having to go all the around. I don't know if that would work with your plan, it wouldn't get
Service
used
door?
a whole lot often, but,
I mean, you'd
you know,
have to
if
come
there was
out
entrance
here
here, I don't
to
know.
come in between these booths. That's really the only way to do it. But you'd have to go through the kitchen then.
Well, I know they don't now.
You'd have to put it here. You'd put it here. That's how it is.
There's
would
even
be
more of a
better
grade,
going
okay.
The adjacent parking, there's a bit of a drop.
Because it's closer to the,
it doesn't have to be a pleasant entrance, it has to be.
Yeah, I've been there, I know, it's kinda, you're,
Entrance. The mere fact that they have a.
it makes more sense.
a handicap entrance.
Yeah.
Now, that could serve as the accessible route.
might be something to think
You're
about,
Yeah, we could
Planning
mark
for the
that.
lowest handicapped person.
rather than going,
Well,
that
that would
might.
be a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Which I don't think could.
Mr. Chairman.
navigate this.
Mr. Martin,
So
I only heard part of that conversation. Are you implying, I didn't, when I was out there, I didn't look to see what's on the south side, that 9'3". Is that all paved?
It is.
You're saying possibly use put a door on that southeast corner?
Well, that was my suggestion,
Okay.
but,
If that's paved, and you have 9'3", apparently, for the property, would it be possible to put your barrier-free space over there, and then they just wheel across the front of the building? Your barrier-free space is on the south side of the building, running parallel to the building. You have 9'3" of space back there.
but you need to have a space plus
Need a van accessible.
you need 16
So you
feet.
talk to your neighbors, and maybe they put their entries right. Isn't their entry on the north corner also?
They have a driveway, that's the
Yeah, but it's a
driveway.
very wide driveway. If you painted it out, I'm just thinking out of the box here. Make an
In the
agreement.
worst case, that could be signed as the accessible route through there too.
I'm just, for both buildings maybe there's a couple barrier-free spots there. You strike a deal and along the south end of your building, just a thought. Because it's not a good situation now.
Right.
And with this proposal, I understand what you're trying to do, but making an unfortunate situation worse. And maybe there's some kind of arrangement between the two properties. I don't recall where their barrier-free space or spaces are.
In the back.
I know they're in the back somewhere, but yeah, but there's an opportunity to run some, maybe not, just a thought. There's a lot of space there. It's a matter of paint. Just a thought.
Okay.
Inside
And I don't think it's necessarily the entry that we're thinking of going on the north side. It's just really the space for the vehicle or.
Yeah, maybe the space goes on the south side. Maybe. I don't know. But you would need to borrow some from your neighbors, and, you know, there's some kind of agreement situation there. It may not be possible. Just a thought.
Right.
and they're leasing the place. I don't know what the owner would say to that proposal actually. Because I asked some questions.
I can't hear you.
I asked the owner before some questions and he was not sure because he's selling just a business there and not, it's a different owner than the owner of the business.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. It may not be possible. Just a thought.
yeah.
Okay. Do you have a grading, do you have a drainage issue now? Do you have any problems? Okay, yeah, okay.
Not at all.
I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah, well,
Mr. Tangiri?
throw a little more mud in the water here. As long as this south side of the building is paved, and there's the possibility that you could bring your customers, or at least some of them, down this side of the building, has any thought been given to simply putting the door over here? You're already moving the door.
Yeah, but
I mean, putting the door over here between these booths and having a vestibule that sticks off on that side of the building. I mean, that seems like it would go a long way toward giving you a lot more space over here. You could even put a corner booth in over there.
If I could just respond to that, and not knowing your concerns about it, to me, I think it would be a strange location, albeit functionally better with what we're talking about. Just the drive being on the opposite side of the building and that kind of being the back of the building, there's service doors over there.
Mhm.
So it would be an awkward entry, I think.
I would think
into
so
the building.
too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, it would probably require you to do something on this side of the building that made it feel more like an entry path. But spatially,
That's not,
that's something to
Functionally,
think
it's
about
better.
anyway.
Yeah, functionally,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that would be an issue, big issue. Right.
Okay, have we given you enough food for thought here?
Yes.
All right. Then we'll look forward to you returning with something.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hmm?
Did you have
Can't
any
go
more
through a kitchen.
questions, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, but-
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you again.
No, I
Thanks.
wouldn't
Good
mark
evening.
the customer to the kitchen.
right, right.
Moving on to item number 4.
Item number 4 is a public hearing to receive public input regarding proposed changes to Berkeley City Code, Chapter 94 signs, Section 9411 general requirements, illuminated signs, and Section 9413 permit procedure.
There was a letter, a note from our city attorney.
Yes. I did have a chance to look at that, and I was thinking I did look over his comments with regard to electrical. And I perused some other ordinances, and that is kind of a uniquely Berkeley item, that item number 1. And I think item number 2, the fact that it needs to comply with the National Electric Code, probably satisfies that.
Okay.
So I would recommend striking that. He mentions, having, in other communities, having issues with the light source being shielded. We haven't had an issue with that. We've had an issue with light sources not being shielded, but not so much with regard to signs. So I don't think that that's,
Okay.
we could always have the problem now that I've said it, but
Yep.
hopefully not.
Okay.
And the term qualified engineer, he suggested professional or licensed instead. I wasn't sure which one you wanted to go with, if any.
I think professional or licensed, I mean.
I think license in the state of Michigan should really be the
Yeah.
Okay,
phrase.
an engineer licensed in the state of Michigan.
Licensed in the state of Michigan.
Okay,
Licensed in
We have to have another hearing if we make these changes?
No. That's just a qualifier.
okay.
all right. Okay, then with that, I guess I'll open the public hearing. Any citizens who would care to comment on this ordinance change may step up to the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and you can have the floor. Again, I don't see anybody rushing up to the microphone, so I guess I'll close the public hearing. What is the desire of the planning commission at this point?
Mr. Chairman?
We're gonna make recommendation to council.
Mr. Chairman? With the addition of the changes that we just discussed, I move we recommend this to council for adoption.
Is there a second to the motion? Second by Commissioner Murad. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none,
Okay.
we'll take a roll call vote.
Richardson,
Yes.
Buckler,
Yes.
Shadle,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pengary,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Murad,
Yes.
Barnett.
Yes.
Okay.
Then we're down to discussion of item number 5.
Discussion regarding status of residential form-based code. So you have a couple of maps, and I gave you an update on, we had a meeting with some developers that work in Berkeley as well as outside, and talked about consolidation of properties and townhouses and whether that made sense from a fiscal standpoint. And I think it was a good meeting. There was some eye openers with, oh yeah, that could work, and that would be, I think there was some interest if they could get some properties, and that would actually make it would be a win-win for them as well as the city getting some diversified housing. I've spoken with the city attorney with regard to notification procedures and making sure we notify in accordance with the law. The areas that we had talked about that would allow single-family and townhouses, the suggestion was that those could be, and they're noted in the maps as in the goldenrod color, that those changes could be done as a text amendment, in which case we would notify similar to what we did with the illuminated signs, where it's posted, it's on the website, and it's a text amendment. The areas that are sort of the brownish maroon color would allow, again, single-family detached, which is what we allow now, townhouses, and then also apartments. And map A is what the Planning Commission had initially talked about with, areas that abut the downtown and so forth, making sense. And I think, again, I think this is sort of more of a long-term view. I think even though single-family homes would be allowed in all of these districts, some of you were on the Planning Commission when we had the Greenfield District rezonings, and that rezoning went ahead, and there was a lot of angst with it. The city was very forward-thinking and went ahead with the rezoning at that point, but it has not resulted in a huge spur of development. And I would hate to see a lot of unneeded anxiety if we went ahead and did the A. That's my recommendation. What I had talked with Kathleen about was map B, which looks at the areas that we've always struggled with, the area, Princeton, an 11-mile area, Coolidge, Mortensen area, as well as I had looked at filling in a block of Kenmore between Beverly and 12 Mile. And again, these are areas that would still allow single-family homes, but it was also allow townhouses and apartments. And in addition, the area that is proposed for a transit stop for BRT and does have a bus stop right now that's at 11 Mile and Woodward, that quarter-mile radius, which is what the transit-oriented development plan that was adopted as part of the master plan calls for, because that's a comfortable walking distance. The areas that are this brown color, the city attorney has advised we would need to do a map amendment with that and send out notices to everybody, all those properties and those within 300 feet. Timeline-wise, we're looking at the future land use plan. The public hearing scheduled for August 18th is the next meeting. It's going before Oakland County on August 4th for their recommendation, and I don't anticipate any issues with it. And all of I think Huntington Woods sent us a letter in favor of what we were proposing to do, and I haven't heard from anybody else. So I imagine Oakland County will be fine with it as well. I've spoken with Kathleen that, September is when we could move forward with something. She thought that was possible. Certainly, if we want to wait until October, we can do that as well. So that's kind of the time frame we're looking at, and kind of strategy-wise. And so I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on text amendments versus map amendments, and what you, how you would like to proceed with this form-based code.
Mr. Murad?
So, let me understand a couple things here. So, if we went with A, R1A and R1B would become a single district, right?
She is, Kathleen from LSL is recommending that. It does not have to be. We can, and she said, while this shows that, she gets leaving it alone because it's going to muddy the other stuff that you want to do. So we can just be silent on it as well.
That's basically taking Oakland Manor and St. John's Woods and making it one district, right?
Yes.
And then would we be combining C and D to be just a form-based?
Well, C, I think, is just this one little strip, and that's actually part of Oakland Manor. I think that would need to be part of, R1B and I misspoke, Commissioner Murad, I'm sorry. R1A and R1B are Oakland Manor. R1C is St. John Woods.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
all right.
So R1A is most of Oakland Manor. R1B is the little strip that's on the south end of Wiltshire.
Right.
That we can't really figure out why it's like that, but it's been like that for forever. And then R1C is mostly St. John Woods.
Okay. So in option B, we wouldn't be doing that. We'd be leaving all of our districts in place?
Well, and again, I was more looking at the R1D when I
Yeah.
was speaking to you.
Okay.
And so I apologize for not addressing the issues of Oakland Manor and St. John Woods. My recommendation to Kathleen was to leave that alone, because I think there are deed restrictions, and I think, again, since we don't have any intention of changing
Yeah.
those districts, let's just not try to say, oh, and by the way, we're gonna clean up this language too, because I think it will be confusing at this point, since there's no intention of changing anything with it.
Yeah.
So this would really just be speaking to our existing zones of R1D, and then I think we have one property that's zoned R2, and then RM and RMH.
Okay. And I can understand the desire to not open up a hornet's nest.
I think there would be a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, there would be a lot of,
and-
I mean, even with doing option B, there's gonna be some anxiety. And my one thought is, back when we were working on the master plan, I know we had a couple sessions where residents could come in and look at what we were doing at the library or something.
Sure.
You know, we could do something like that
Mhm.
with this, get input, explain things to, and maybe put some minds at ease prior to deciding which way to go, but.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrell?
I have a couple comments. you have any idea how the numbers stack up about what percentages of these new uses, how these, we looked at, we look at we're so heavy on the single-family residential, and it's obvious that we're trying to sort of spread this out a little bit, and I'm just wondering, how the two of these compare from a numerical
Oh, I
standpoint.
don't know. I can ask.
Of like build out,
I'm sorry?
in terms of a build out analysis, like how many units you could get.
Well, how much of the, if we adopt Plan A, how much of the, how many of the lots in the city are gonna be, zoned mixed residential now? Or how many are gonna be zoned neighborhood, in comparison to our single-family housing stock?
Right.
Because I do think that kind of leads to this question of, I can understand that you don't wanna cause a panic in the streets here, but I still look at this issue of balance and what's a good mix, and are we headed in the right direction? Now, having said that, and looking at the, looking at A and B, I wonder if we're not overdoing it with the neighborhood edge a little bit. Only, and I'll cite the what we did on Greenfield, because that was a great idea. There's no question that was the right thing to do. But it hasn't really panned out.
Right.
And my concern, I would rather see the development along these lines concentrated in an area, and then if it works, we can branch it out, as opposed to saying, here's all the places it could be, and let the market, pick up, you know what I mean? Yeah, I just wonder if we haven't, if we're not going too far with the edge. And I look at it like, maybe every other street of the east-west collectors, as opposed to all of them. Just a thought. Again, and it's just me looking at the map here going, golly, that's a lot of orange.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, the meeting with the developers, was the point that Mr. Morel raised, was that discussed at all or alluded to in that meeting?
No, Commissioner Smith and Chairperson Barnett were there, but I think the intent of that meeting was to say, would this, if you had, let's say, 2 single-family lots, and we had, setbacks that were X and Y, and you could get, let's say, 4 townhouses on that piece of property, could you see that working in Berkeley, and would that work from a business standpoint as far as the development costs go? And if the city was interested in that, would that be something that you would be interested in building? Is that?
Yeah, I don't believe we ever discussed particular locations.
Okay.
No.
That's what I wanted to know.
No.
No, we never
It
did.
was just the idea that, turn on the light bulb, is this something that would be, and maybe we even touched on could you do it in 2 lots? Would you need 4? We touched on that. Nobody had any answers at that point, but you saw the light bulbs go off. And in fact, a month or 2 later, we had that proposal
Yeah.
by La Salette. So
Proposal.
that would have never happened without that meeting, I don't believe.
Yes, it would have.
You think so?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't.
I talked to people, yes.
Well, whatever. So that probably would have happened regardless whether we had that meeting.
Yeah, and
But you could see the home builders who were represented there, they all went, And so there was a lot of going
Yeah,
on.
there was some humming
Yeah.
going on, yeah.
That they never even considered it prior to that,
No, I don't think any of them considered Berkeley, to be honest with you.
right? And I think with Plan A, with all this brown, it's unfortunate that it's the darkest color on the map, too.
That does show up,
Really
yes.
shows up. But I guess,
Reverse the map.
in light of what Commissioner Morel said, I might agree, because I think what we did is we just went nuts on these end caps, basically. and I could see Webster's an obvious location, especially along the hospital property there. That'd be a great location to get some townhomes, because there's a zillion employees up there. Catalpa probably has a lot of potential.
it does, but it doesn't. There's a lot of homes that are facing Catalpa.
That's absolutely true.
My understanding of that neighborhood edge was it was gonna be homes that, or
Right.
properties that didn't face that
Oh,
edge
right.
street.
However, because of the speed and the nature.
Well, that's what
because of
I-
the nature of Catalpa.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
As
I
a
think I
collector.
could make an exception.
Right.
But like Mortensen, Cass, even the south end of Stanford, I don't know about that. Maybe Stanford, just because of how much we're gonna put as mixed residential, could be,
Hmm.
you know.
And Beverly may have some potential just because it is a wide road. I don't know what that means, but it just seems like it could fit into something like that.
Its proximity to downtown kind of
Yeah.
makes it make sense
I
too.
think even Wiltshire could potentially work.
You know that,
No, I'm
We're
serious.
filling in
It
those
could.
spots.
In spots.
Good spots, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the proximity to downtown means something, proximity to the hospital means something.
Well,
Right.
and again, I think this is still allowing single family. This is
Right.
not
Of course.
saying
Right.
it's
Of
gonna
course.
sit and.
No, yeah.
So.
right.
Still everything, anything, but it has all,
You
it
know,
opens the
And maybe that's
option.
something we look at too, is like you were saying, Mr. Smith, you know, Webster, Catalpa, maybe Beverly, because of its proximity to downtown. And maybe some of the other ones, we don't do them.
And then see how the market, yeah, as a start.
And if that market starts to take
Well-
off, we can readdress it.
Well, and again, as clarification, the city attorney advised that the goldenrod color we could do as a text amendment. So we're gonna define collector and
yeah.
as certain streets. And then we're going to say that on collector streets or single family that abut collector streets can also have townhouses on it.
Yeah.
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 So
It's going to
are
be,
we gonna have different collector streets?
well, that may be difficult to define though,
Right.
too.
Right.
Well, and the reason why I said is because you're gonna have to say 2 lots, or you're gonna have to give, maybe you have to give a distance within 50 or 100, you know, how you define, because if we're gonna do this as text change and not actually make a zone out of it.
Right.
I've got, you know, I'm looking here at Beverly, and in between Royal and Buckingham, I have 2 single lots on the north side. And then I go over, you know, again, it's that issue of where we're drawing the line and how we're gonna draw it with just a text change. How do you draw a line? How do you draw a line on a map with just a text change? That's something to, I'm not saying it's undoable, but I think it's something that we're gonna have to consider pretty carefully.
Okay.
Because you can't just say 2 lots, within 2 lots of the collector. Well, I know what you're saying. I think if we can do it with a text change, you know, it certainly makes our lives a little
It's gonna be a long paragraph.
What's that?
It's gonna be a long paragraph.
Bullet points, my friend, bullet points.
Bullet points. Another item, Amy, you know, option A has all this unfortunate brown on it, option B doesn't have as much. But maybe along 11 Mile, we leave it in there.
We need another name for unfortunate brown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
well,
my
we can come up, they
thing.
can
I-
come up with a different
Exciting
color.
brown.
Right.
You know, while
And
we're on
maybe
the,
we-
Brown is a really nice color. It's
Yeah, it
just
is.
It is,
very-
but, yeah,
compared
it
to
is,
all the
but
pastels on it,
comparatively,
it's
comparatively,
more
it
contrast.
just,
I
if
would
you
leave
squint, it just pops out as being very,
Yeah.
very large.
let me throw one more thing at you, as long as we're talking about brown, and it's something that concerns me. If you look at Plan B, at the brown along the south side of Princeton, and then also between 12 Mile and Beverly on the west side of Kenmore.
Yes.
That's really the only place on this map where this new mixed residential district is gonna face R1D homes.
Yes.
With all of the neighborhood edge things, we're rotating those houses, you know, we're implying that the implication is that those uses will be facing the collectors.
Yeah.
And in every other location here, it's kind of, well, I take that, well, we have the existing one where where Oxford Towers is, I forgot that one. But
But that's existing.
I
so.
think that that's a potential concern. When I look at it as being a neighbor, you know, having it behind my house is one thing. Having it across the street is something completely
Big,
different.
all of a sudden it could be big.
But it's not going to be, because this is form-based, and it's gonna,
Okay.
Yeah, it
the
may not be
scale
big.
is gonna
It may
be
not
there.
be.
It's gonna
but
be
still.
brown though. obviously.
Well, unfortunate.
No,
but-
because I think we
Yeah, it's
could
gotta
also
be
get rid of the,
within the form base.
I think you could combine the mixed residential with the multifamily residential. RMH.
I just think that that's something that we want to be,
Even potentially
we
get rid
need
of
to make sure we
RM, too.
understand.
Well, we
Because-
are, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what this shows, it's all the RM and RMH.
Right.
Is
Okay,
gonna
so,
be
okay,
this.
so, yeah, that was why.
You could basically use those two colors and rename them.
Right. We could pick a color other than this color, yes.
And one more thing, as long as I'm, got the floor.
Go for it.
All right. I don't see any reason why we can't define the collector streets by their names as opposed to by
We
it's a collector
can, that's
or
what
it's
we,
not.
what we
Yeah.
can, I mean,
I think it's
major
a,
thoroughfares, we do that way.
I'm just a little concerned about the intensity of the neighborhood edge. But okay, that's it. I'm done, I swear.
Okay. Other comments?
Did we mess it all up again?
No, no, it's,
No.
this is a big change, so
is
you
a
need to be
major change
comfortable
we're
with
doing.
it, and
Right.
We need to get it
we're,
right.
you know, other cities, you know, they spend $100,000 and they adopt a whole new zoning ordinance. We're doing it in bits and pieces, and this is one that, you know, it's kind of different, doing it in bits and pieces.
is.
and
Mr. Chair,
it's-
Mr. Richardson?
all this talk about brown and about abrupt changes, speaking as someone who is colorblind, I'm having a real hard time with this map already. But if the text could stress somehow that the form-based aspect of this change, I think it would be good, because the central idea we're proceeding here with is we're not changing supposedly, we're not changing the character
Right.
of these neighborhoods. We're just changing the allowable use, and that could entail some changes in setbacks and so on, but we're not changing the character.
Correct.
And I think if the language was in the text to assure people that these are going to be residential type structures, not commercial residential structures, it might be helpful.
Yeah, and I think what makes this further interesting is that all of our codes are codified under Muni Code. And Muni Code, they do have some graphics and so forth, but I have had concerns for a while about that, and I'm not telling Muni Code what they don't already know. They have had they showed some examples of communities that have done something a little more graphic. However, and I've expressed this to the city attorney and the city clerk, Unicode is saying, well, we would have to see how, we might actually end up having to pay Unicode more, which I'm not really inclined to do if it's not gonna be exactly what we want anyway, so. What I'm working on is how to reference it in the Unicode text, you know, to say sections 138, whatever, through this, see the city's website or something like that. And the city attorney has told me that's okay to do, but it just kind of seems a little clunky, and we don't want this clunky. We want it to be easy, because we want to see different kinds of residential development. That's the whole point of this. We don't want it to be, oh, I got stuck on the code book and just decided to build what, I've seen. So that makes it sort of further interesting to kind of massage this into the existing conventional zoning.
I guess my other comment, kind of echoing Commissioner Morel, I might be able to live with cutting back on some of this rezoning and thinking more in terms of streets that are proximate to 12 Mile, Coolidge, and Woodward, and the transit stop because this is a departure, and we may prefer to take a cautious approach just to see how it goes.
Well, let me ask this. You know, I tend to look at both of these as, knowing, you know, how if you zone it, they don't necessarily build. I tend to look at this as more like a future land use map of how it might look in 50 years, but not necessarily. And so, and point taken with regard to a text amendment, and I'll have to see what Kathleen comes up with, but that was initially what the city attorney had said, that, you know, he thought that it would be all right if you defined collector and said if it's abutting it or what have you, that would be all right. But I tend to look at this as a kind of a future land use of what could be but might not happen. And I guess what I wouldn't want to see curtailed is if you do say, well, okay, we don't want as many collector streets, and suddenly, not suddenly, but that let's say we have an opportunity on a street that you guys didn't name where we do get 4 lots consolidated, and because it wasn't put into this definition, you can't have townhouses there. And I understand the idea of kind of putting it next to the downtown, but if we're okay, what we had talked to LSL about was we wanted to, instead of having zones of the apartments and the townhouses in this, we wanted to have it interspersed in the neighborhood, but in a way that was pleasing. We didn't want to have it not be part of the neighborhood. We wanted to have it a scale and a quality that was appropriate, so that you had a single-family house, and then maybe around the corner there was a series of townhouses, and if, you know, you happened to further down the block, there was an opportunity to consolidate some property, and you had, you know, a nice apartment building that again was an appropriate scale and didn't look like something from 1970s. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, people, that's what they tend to think of with apartments. That was the idea, is rather than having it, you know, all the apartment buildings have to be off of Coolidge. So if I'm hearing kind of some mixed, I guess I'm hearing that maybe you guys don't want that now.
I was thinking in that direction, but after listening to what you just said, I like it just the way it is.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're reacting as a snippet of what
Oh, I agree.
someone else will see when they look at it. So we kind of know what we're talking about. We don't really necessarily, but
I think
we're having the same reaction that
Yeah.
the general public will have, seeing all this stuff, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that
yeah,
now.
there's not, this isn't gonna be overnight changes.
course not.
And this is, you know, but at the same time, I don't know what's gonna happen in 50 years. Well, I know where I'll be in 50 years. I'll be over in this plot on the gray area. But at this point, you know, we're looking long-term.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea.
I can be persuaded.
I think it's I think that's what we should do. I mean, if you start piecemealing this, thing.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'll ask you, how is reducing the amount of the neighborhood edge piecemealing when cutting out the big brown stripe is somehow something prudent and we should do? Is it, you know, is the future this map or this map? And all you're saying is that it's not this map, it's this map, and what I'm saying is it's a version of this map.
I think
And-
it's, well, I agree. I think it's a version. I was, when I look at this,
A or B.
A or B,
Yeah.
I think we've cut too much of this out.
Okay. And I,
And I'm a little uneasy about that part. So
Well,
I think maybe there's a C.
well, yeah, and that's
A
what
and a
that's what I
half.
think we're all talking about here, is that
A
there's
and a
a
half.
C out there that
There's
we're
a B
working on.
plus.
Well,
Um,
but, Mr. Chair, I have a question. So, I agree, Eric, that it is a little disconcerting to have this great swaths, whatever you wanna call it, of land rezoned, or whatever we're gonna call that, and let the market do what it will. But the point is, we don't know what the opportunity is in any of these, where they're going to come up.
Yeah, I realize
Who's
that.
gonna if I get the opportunity to cobble 4 lots together, they're here, okay, so, I get them up here instead of down here, I can't do what I
Right.
wanna do, which is what the intent was, to make it to scale that fits
Yeah.
into the neighborhood. I should have that opportunity, but how many opportunities are going to arise where they'll cobble together enough of these lots?
That's something I can't predict. I don't think any of us can
Right.
predict.
So the
But
idea is that if you're able to do it, it needs to be within these areas that have been predetermined, is that we would let that happen, because it's not gonna happen here. Or it's not gonna happen here, and it's not gonna happen down here. But if I do it anywhere along here, I should be able to make that happen.
I'm back to the same argument that why is eliminating the dark brown here somehow okay, but not talking about reducing this? It's the same thing. Oh, what if the opportunity comes up to build a great big apartment?
We just don't know.
Or I should say, an appropriately scaled mixed residential
But I
development
like
in
A.
this location.
I like A. I think A is.
Don't get me wrong, I like A too. My concern is that this is perhaps a bridge too far. Now, when you look at this in the context of a text change, all that orange color goes away,
Right.
and it's just in there. And so maybe the brown turns orange, and then that solves your problem. And
doesn't
And
help
I-
Mr. Richardson at all.
Sure does.
That don't help
I
him.
think,
Because it's in
I like what I'm hearing now, yes.
Like the attorney, he likes text.
Again, and it's just semantics here, but I think that if we're gonna have the discussion about how much is enough mixed residential,
Well,
then I think we need to
that's-
have the discussion is how much is enough residential edge? And that gets back to my first thing about wanting to know some kind of numerical sort of thing.
Okay.
To be able to understand what, for lack of a better term, we're about to do to the city. And because I do think this is important, and I do think this is a good idea. I just think that
You
you're
want a
right.
little more- you
Map
want-
C.
Maybe we should
So I
address
guess-
one thing of the edge first, and then address the next thing, break them up.
Well, I didn't want to muddy the waters, but maybe some of the area that we're turning, that's no longer going to be brown,
We can
should maybe
filter the
move more into the neighborhood edge zone there. Because I do think that when you look at the areas that we're considering, there are some pieces in there that I could easily say need to be redeveloped
Yeah.
in that little 10 block strip, or 10 lot strip.
And the neighborhood edge is a great transition between commercial and single-family residential.
Yes, sir.
It's also a
That
good
was-
transition
yeah.
from,
Feeder.
mixed residential
Oh, yeah,
apartment
yeah.
buildings
I-
to, like a townhome to a single family.
And I had not envisioned a higher intensity in that area along 12 Mile, or this middle stripe here. And because I was thinking that was more along the lines of the neighborhood edge kind of scale. And this was kind of a surprise to me when I saw it, but again, I just think we need to, maybe,
I could see that more near the central business district, the downtown district.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think there could be live work units, I think there could be, there could be townhomes.
Well, and your
There's lots of
12-mile
ways you could-
district already allows that,
Right.
in the-
everything. The sort of purpley color, your 12-mile district
Yeah.
from
Right.
Tyler, that already allows townhouses and
Yeah, we need-
apartments.
And maybe we need more of that.
Just letting you
maybe
know,
that's what we
just
need.
reminding you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll
This area
let
becomes-
Kathleen know, and I'll get some data on percentages.
Okay,
That's good.
Okay,
all right.
beat that up too.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now I'll entertain citizens' comments. And nobody's rushing to the microphone. So I guess we'll go to liaison reports. Anything from environmental?
Nothing to report this month, Mr. Chair.
Chamber?
I missed the meeting. Let them know that I do know that they're working, both Dream Cruise and Pub Crawl
Okay.
in August, so.
DDA, anything?
At the last meeting, the social media contract and the hometown, holiday events contract were approved for Nikolai Events. There was discussion about, the city's website and how it's gonna also help work with the DDA site, both of which need work. And the Carrot Pass idea that was advanced to the two gentlemen that brought it to the attention of the DDA. Council has approved moving forward with that and has offered a free subscription. So, we're gonna have people walking more, I hope, on Coolidge. And then there was a discussion, unfinished business, Rabina 12-mile project. And again, it was the Michigan developers and so forth, and how the city of Berkeley is rated high, over 70% for walkability and desirability. So that's kind of, I guess, what we saw when we were out looking to get people to walk. So that's really, those are the main things that happened at that meeting.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. I was at council meeting, and I guess most of you know, Robert North has retired, and they had quite a few accolades for Mr. North at the city council meeting this last week. Nancy Line has also retired, communications director. She's retired. And so we also had the second reading for Consumers Power for their 30-year, I guess it's 30-year license, or whatever they have for them to maintain our gas lines and all of our gas services within the community. Mr. Martin Smith was reappointed to the Planning Commission. And
Oops.
and there were some issues with right-of-way for a telecommunications permit, but and they were discussing charitable solicitations in the city. There's a new ordinance coming forth on the revision, I guess, to that. So that was a city council meeting pretty much. So with that, I'll go around the room and we'll see if anybody's got anything to say. Mr. Martin Smith, anything tonight?
I look forward to year 16, 17, and 18.
Mr. Richardson.
Well, I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Smith on being reappointed. Somebody has to have maintain the institutional memory around here.
It's not me.
I didn't say it was you.
No,
Commissioner.
okay. Accepted.
Marty brings tremendous expertise. We all know that.
Yes.
My comment is that the city of Ferndale has put a bike lane on Livernois Avenue, south of 9 Mile. There was an item about that in the one of the local news websites. I've forgotten which one, but I put a link to that story on the Berkley Environmental Advisory Committee page of the city's website. It's a story it's got a brief video with it showing Ferndale councilwoman, I think it's Piana.
Anna.
Oh, Melanie, yeah.
Demonstrating how that bike lane works. I continue to believe that Coolidge Avenue is an outdated thoroughfare. We've been through at least one round of studies which have not resulted in any action or any plan. I don't know how to get the discussion going again about Coolidge, but I do think it's in the city's interest to continue to look at Coolidge and continue to examine alternatives to the configuration that we have today, which is, I think, unacceptable in many important respects. So I would not, I don't want to go on and on, but I would not presume to know the traffic count on Livernois. It's not a residential side street, though. It's a commercial thoroughfare in Ferndale, and it has a very user-friendly, bike-friendly, pedestrian-friendly aspect built into it now that it didn't used to have. So I think we should look at what our neighbors are doing, and we should try to use our imaginations and continue to think about improving Coolidge. So I'll leave it there. I don't know how the commissioners feel. I don't know how the council feels. I don't know how the city administration feels about it, but I think we should look into it further.
Thank you. Ms. Pott?
I agree. We need to keep Coolidge in our thoughts. We have to figure this one out. I recently had a client that pulled in right in front of my shop, and she sat in her car for 3 lights before she could get the courage to get out of her car and come in. And in order to get her back into her car, I went out there to help her. And again, it was at least 2 lights. You can't see what's coming from the south. You just can't. And we are a couple of days, maybe a week away from welcoming a new bridal shop right across the street where Elmina's Baker used to be. And so there's going to be more crazy brides and their moms and assorted family just darting across the streets with big bags of things. So again, we have to pay attention to Coolidge. That's it.
Mr. Murray?
Nothing else.
Mr. Morrell?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Chairman, one thing. I noticed in the back on the very back, at the very end of the report for this month, it says, we will have a public hearing on master plan amendment on August 18th. And I just want to make sure that's correct.
Yeah. You'll recall you guys were very kind, and I had asked you to switch the date.
That's right. Okay. So that
Yes.
was a good reminder, and thank you very much. And that's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Beckler? Mr. Tangari?
It's good to see all the commissioners here. The other communities that I plan in, we've had a real struggle getting a quorum, so it's nice to see everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Well, I want to congratulate Mr. Martin Smith for his reappointment. And for everybody else, I thank the city council.
Several
for
of us
all
are
our-
just appointed, right?
Yes.
3.
3 of us, yeah.
3 of
It's
us.
not just me.
So,
So.
all of us, to keep the planning commission sort of together. We have a very good group here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very honored to be able to serve on this board. So, and everybody contributes, so that's a good factor. I don't have anything else this evening. I guess we have the Dream Cruise coming up in a couple weeks. So I imagine most everybody will be out for the Dream Cruise to see what's going on with the automobiles on Woodward And we have the parade on Friday night. So, Ms. Vanson, anything?
Next meeting is August 18th.
August 18th.
Thank you again
That-
for switching it.
That's right, we do have it on the 18th. Anything else? Then I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Morrell.
Motion is made.
Seconded by Mr. Murad. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.